It can only be attributable to human error.
He meddled in things that you people. He meddled in things. He meddled in things.
Where will we go next? Just phantom from another time.
No one, Mr. Mulder.
That's it, man. Game over, man. Game over.
That is one big pile of shit.
Hi everyone, I'm Aleks Petakov.
I'm Eli Watson.
I'm Nash Hoover.
I'm Aleks Petakov.
And you're listening to
Cryptid.
Campfire.
Yeah.
We got it. First take, baby.
That's
Right on.
stupid.
Well, welcome everyone to this week's episode. Today we are joined by two amazing guests, Nash Hoover, who we've actually had on the show before, and Aleks Petakov. So, welcome guys. How are you guys doing today?
Right?
Doing good. How about yourselves?
Doing well, doing well. Aleks Petakov.
We're gonna need like a
Alexes.
designation.
I know. I'm just gonna call you Petakov.
That's fine.
I already kind of think of you as Petakov in my mind, so it's a fun last name.
That works. That works for me.
I saw you pouring a drink. What you got there?
Oh, just some exciting water in a little canteen. Nothing too crazy tonight, you know. Gotta stay hydrated. I just worked out, so I'm just trying to stay hydrated.
Oh, right
Nothing
on.
exciting for Wednesday
Wow.
night. Maybe tomorrow we'll turn it up a notch.
Like classic H2O, can't beat it.
Yes. Yeah.
Some high quality H2O.
So today we are actually promoting something special. Nash Hoover's Chasing Legends Kickstarter for season 1 is going live. So did you guys want to, Nash, did you want to give us a little sales pitch?
So we are launching a Kickstarter to gather the funding to finish the production of our complete first season. We already have one episode in the bag. We have another one booked. So the money that we get from this Kickstarter will be to finish off the last 2 episodes, as well as any other expenses that go into the next episode we have coming up. And yeah, it's gonna be crazy. I've never done this before, so it's been interesting to kind of learn how it's done. And Aleks has been a huge help. The whole crew has been a huge help in making it. We finalized our Kickstarter video the other day, and it's really good. And
Nice.
yeah, it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be a very stressful 30 days on my end, but I'm excited to see how it goes out. We're getting a really good response with everything. So
I'm sure, yeah. It seems like a lot of people are excited about this project. And like you mentioned, you have already filmed the first episode of the first season, which Aleks Petakov was actually there for. And so I guess my question to you was, how did you get involved with Chasing Legends?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's been awesome. As you said, we filmed the episode about the Pukwudgie. We'll just throw that right out there. That was the first episode. So Nash and I had been friends on Facebook, as is so often with this community. You're friends with people all over the world, really. And he hit me up one day, and he's like, "Oh, we're thinking about coming out to New England to do a little bit of filming on the Pukwudgie. I know you're in the New England area. Would you want to help us out?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely. I love the Bridgewater Triangle. Love that kind of Pukwudgie story. It's been a couple of years since I've was sort of in that area, so it was great to connect with them, and we planned it all out and just kind of helped them get in touch with some people that I felt were more knowledgeable than myself in regards to some of the history of the area and the Pukwudgie story. And they came out. We had a blast, absolutely fun time, and it was like the weekend before Massachusetts declared a state of emergency and the whole pandemic really started.
Jeez.
So it was like timing could not have been better. We had an absolutely fun time hanging out in the freezing woods at 12 a.m. But it was good all in all, and we talked about it further and decided to kind of team up, and really excited for some of the other episodes that are planned, because there's some really phenomenal stuff coming up.
Oh, right on. So how many Puckwudgies did you see?
6.
All of them.
All of
yeah.
All six.
All
Oh,
6.
fuck yeah.
Right
Wow.
on. I know we covered Puckwudgies on Cryptid Campfire just before we interviewed Nash for the first time, and we actually had someone sit in the room with us, who happened to be from Massachusetts and had never heard of the Puckwudgie. Actually, he grew up like right next to Freetown State National Park or whatever, and had never heard of it.
We were out there and people saw us filming. They're like, "Oh, what are you guys doing?" And we explained it to them. They're like, "Oh, we've never heard of that." Like, cool. It's like you live right next door. Like, it's yeah.
Really?
We were actually pretty shocked just to see. It's like, how do we know about it when we don't live anywhere near the area, but you live, within a mile of the forest and have no. It's so yeah. It was pretty crazy to kind of see that, and that the fact that it's really not as well known in the area as it could be.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
absolutely.
crazy.
I would agree. I mean, we got really surprised by the reaction, even myself. But I think it's one of those things where if you're into the paranormal or into cryptid sort of culture, you know about these stories. I've encountered
Mhm.
that with other cryptids, where people that have grown up in an area be like, "Oh, I've never even heard of this lake monster or whatever," and the story is well known to people online, and that's what kind of surprised me was they were coming from Minnesota. They knew about it. They'd done the research, and it's in the Puckwudgie itself is in the world of Harry Potter. I mean, it's in all kinds of
Oh yeah.
popular culture, but you can go right into that town there in Fall River, and people have no idea, and they're kind of like, "Puck what?" It's like Puckwudgie.
That would
Well,
make for a clever
remember
T-shirt.
remember when we were walking out of the Freetown State Forest, and there was those kids that were walking in,
Oh
and we're
yeah,
like, "Watch out for the Puckwudgies," and the one girl's like, "That's the second time I've heard that today." Like,
yeah. People walking in the forest kind of just get told, "Be careful," I guess.
Yes, I found out about Petakov's involvement with the Puckwudgie episode when you sent me an image on Facebook, a selfie of you and Nash together.
Yeah, I think it was around the time I was releasing Lions of the East, and you were doing a review on it, and
Mhm.
we were like talking, and then I mentioned to Nash, I'm like, "Oh, Eli." He's like, "Yeah, he's like a huge fan." I'm like, "Oh, let's send him a picture." Like the two of us, we were in this back road in the rental Jeep. I mean, they had this insane rental Jeep for Massachusetts, not the exact place you'd expect for off-roading, right? But
Mhm.
turns out they're the one road in all of Mass that's probably the worst is in the Freetown State Forest, so the Jeep came in handy. And we're on this back road, and we decided to just take a selfie, and that's when we sent it to you, and you're like, "Oh, that's so awesome!" Like the dream team or something. I'm like,
Yeah,
it was a funny moment.
it's the dream team, man.
Dream Team
Uh,
Supreme.
because if anyone doesn't know who Aleks Petakov is, he has established himself in the world of cryptozoological filmmaking. Because you did On the Trail of Champ with Small Town Monsters, and you did Lions of the East, which came out earlier this year, and now you're involved with Chasing Legends, which I think is so cool.
Yeah, I kind of like the fact that Nash he's a young dude. I think we're the same age. He may be a couple months older than me. I think we kind of debated this last time, but
Hmm.
we're both young dudes that are into this subject, and I think we can relate to each other in that way, because a lot of times you deal with older people in this subject, and there's like a lot of gatekeeping and that
Hmm.
sort of thing. So we definitely have faced the same sort of hurdles together, and it's just like a East Coast Midwest kind of collaboration at this point. So we're
Yeah.
we're kind of bridging the gap there, and now we're getting the West Coast in with you
Yeah.
guys too.
yeah.
Right on. I know it's especially the West Coast. Unless you're in the PNW, there's not a whole lot of people into this kind of stuff, I don't think.
Except for maybe
Uh,
the execs at the all the studios there do the reality programs in LA.
oh, yeah. So I guess I know I've seen a couple episodes of Chasing Legends on YouTube, and you guys are very different from those kind of television, the reality TV show type deal for one reason that I primarily feel, correct me if I'm wrong, is that you guys actually care about the subject matter.
We do.
And I feel like everyone else is just kind of a celebrity or wannabe celebrity that wants to be associated with ghosts or Bigfoot or whatever reason.
Well, to add to that, I had a guy. I had a conversation with a guy through the Facebook page the other day. That was pretty much like, I hope that this isn't, another jump scare show where, like a Finding Bigfoot, Expedition Bigfoot type where it's just over dramatized and this and that. I'm like absolutely not. It says it's a show that's following our real research. Like, we're not just people that were handpicked to do this show. Like, this is our real research that we are, genuinely into, and we present everything honestly and truthfully, and it's we don't beat around the bush. We're not afraid to sell it how it is. If we think something's BS, we say it's BS, and we'll give you our reason why. And he's like that. He's like, you have no idea how relieved I am to hear that. I'll definitely be tuning in. It's like people are so used to just getting that when something new comes along, they're so they're a little timid to kind of embrace it until they finally see it. And that's kind of when I've met people, when I've gone to like festivals and stuff like that, I always get that question like, well, how do you guys approach it? And I'll explain it to them. They're like, wow, that's definitely different. Like, yeah, we don't always find stuff, but we are going to tell you, hey, if we don't find stuff, it doesn't mean that there's nothing here. We just didn't have anything happen to us. But that, that doesn't, and we always say that doesn't mean that there shouldn't be more research done than certain things. I mean, certain cases, yeah, there's, if we don't have encounters and that we can explain, then we usually will say, okay, then it's probably misidentification with this, that, the other thing, which was the case with our Devil's Punchbowl episode. But yeah, we've really been kind of welcomed with open arms by a lot of people in the field because we are not making this, for 15 minutes of fame. We're just making this because we're using the show as a way to show people our, what our research. It's basically we're taking everybody along with us and just documenting everything and putting it out there. Like, we don't try to make it anything it doesn't need to be.
Definitely, yeah. Just to add to that, I mean, I think I really resonate with that approach. I've done that on my own with my other works, and I think that's what's been so interesting about this time period that we're in with kind of the online streaming and everything, and independent creators being able to put their stuff out by themselves, right? We don't have a major studio that's kind of controlling everything, and that's when seeing some of Nash's earlier stuff, that's really what kind of resonated with me. Was I like that approach because that's basically what I do, just not as much on camera, which I'm excited to kind of get on camera a little bit and share some of my thoughts about some of these cases too, because we do come from that place where we care about these subjects, right? Whereas the studios, a lot of times, they don't really care about the subject at all. They're just there to get revenue and ratings and that kind of thing, and they want to create drama. Like, if they were running Chasing Legends, they would have Nash and myself get into a big argument, and then another group member come in and hit somebody with a chair or something like ridiculous. That's the kind of stuff they do. But we actually care about the subjects. Like, if we weren't doing this series, we probably would be looking into it by ourselves anyway, in terms of doing research and reading about it. So I think that's like the critical difference between an approach like this or somebody that's from the community kind of giving it a face. And I think people are excited to back that because they've been so inundated with that reality TV stuff. And that's why I think stuff like Chasing Legends and Small Town Monsters and even some of my own stuff and other people I've encountered and people that have their stuff out there are really doing pretty well in this sense, because there's a very receptive audience for it.
Yeah, it's kind of nice to not have an exec breathing down your neck saying you got to have a cliffhanger every 10 minutes, It's just
Although, I mean, I guess, would you guys ever rule out including a chair shot if it did happen? Because you never know, that could be a boost for ratings.
If it ever got that bad, I suppose you could leave it in there. It's telling the truth, like it's not staged. On TV they might tell you to grab the chair and hit him, but if it happens here, hopefully not.
Yeah, right. Knock on wood that it doesn't, but if it did, that'd be cool to have the brawl to end it all.
If it does happen, it's probably just a few in and messing around.
I was gonna ask Aleks Petakov, sorry, that is there anything you learned while working on Champ and working on Lions of the East that you're bringing now to Chasing Legends?
Yeah, I think just which is not even beyond just those two projects. Just my general approach is really sort of a boots on the ground examination. Not only that, but like if you're looking at a particular area that we want to study a case in, let's say Champ. So you want to learn about the lake, you want to learn about the natural history, the human history, what Native American tribes lived there, when were first settlers coming in, were there battles, what stuff happened. I think that's really important to know that when you're going into any area. And then also just learning about the natural history, how did the lake form, how did this or that happen, and just that approach really kind of top down, and as well as just getting on the ground, because you can read about something but you won't really know it. I mean, I can read about Lake Champlain all day long, but when I actually visit it, I then get context to the information that I've been soaking in. So I think that's just the analytical side, and just a love for the subject. I think that's probably more of what I bring than anything. And Nash as well, just like really passionate about the subject and talking to people who really investigate it, because we're not going to be on there claiming that we're experts on the Pukwudgie or anything. We're going to talk to people who have been researching it for a lot longer, whereas we're bouncing from case to case. They are like wholly dedicated to Champ or any of the other cryptids. So they're the kind of people you want to talk to and get their opinions and where to check out, and like they can point us in the right direction, but where to examine or night investigate or whatever.
Mm. Yeah, and even touching on, contextualizing the information, as a podcast, we don't go out and research things, but last year over summer we did, Bigfoot month, and we covered Bigfoot for a while, and then I went to the Oregon Bigfoot Festival, which was my first time going to the PNW,
Oh
and
man.
boy, did that just whoa, like something could totally be hiding in here, like you know?
It's all it's hyped up to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still have yet to get out there. Hopefully we'll make it out there at some point, but I've heard just good things.
Really? You've never been out there?
Not
I
to the
haven't
Pacific
either.
Northwest. I've actually, well, I was in Northern California. If you
Mm.
consider that, is that considered Pacific Northwest?
I mean, the Southern Pacific Northwest, yeah,
Okay,
but I
yeah.
think it counts, yeah.
Because like I was in Willow Creek, which is kind of the Bigfoot
Oh, okay.
hotspot there, and
Yeah.
then we drove to the border of Oregon just so we could say that like we went to Oregon, because that's where the redwoods were. So I haven't been to like Washington or British Columbia. That's like very high on my list though.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I was supposed to go in April, but we canceled our trip.
Yeah, that's a
Ah.
bummer.
I know.
Squatches will be there waiting for you. For next
They
time.
better be. I'm not allowed to work on that trip though. That's solely a vacation though. I
Oh
tried.
yeah.
My girlfriend won't let me.
Hey, man, it's relaxing up there. I love it up there. But speaking of locations, for this next season, is there any one location you're most looking forward to visiting, regardless of the cryptid?
I'd say the next one for me. I mean, all of them I'm excited for, but I think the next one we have going on, because we'll be in northern Arizona in July, of all times to go.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm really excited for that one just because of uh, the region that we're going to be in, and the Mogollon Rim area, and north of Phoenix, in the actual like the mountains and forests, and not so much in the desert. So just we've never investigated in an area that's been so vast. So it leaves so many possibilities for things to happen and go wrong for us. So I think for that, I'm really excited for that one. But yeah, like I said, all of them I'm really excited for. But I love Arizona personally, so I'm really excited for that one.
Yeah, my answer would pretty much be the same. I love the Southwest. I haven't been out there in a couple of years, so just that region is so amazing. Can't wait to get out there. I am looking forward to Champ as well. We're going to do that. Of course, that's one for me that's close to my heart, and I'm actually just putting out a list as of this. When this is released, there will be like a little Champ list spots to visit on my website. I'm putting that out, but as well as the Rougarou in Louisiana.
Yeah.
That's the other one. I've been to Homa, where we're going to be going last year, and I loved the area, and I think it's just such a they're all so different terrain wise, from northern Arizona mountains to completely flat Louisiana with the bayous and the gators to Lake Champlain. They're all just so different in terms of environments. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's kind of one of my, when I kind of laid out this season, that was kind of one of the things I wanted to do. I wanted to get 4 different types of cryptids and then 4 different regions, so we weren't going to be in the same, biome twice. And
Right on.
it challenges us because, we're each time we're, going somewhere that we've never been and in a type of environment that we never worked in. So it's really just going to challenge us as a crew and to really work our asses off and make the best product we can at each location, which I'm thinking we will do just fine.
Yeah, I think it was when we were talking, Nash, about just like the difference in threats in some of these areas.
Yeah.
Like in Massachusetts, the area we were in, it was like the biggest threat we had was cultists or like drug addicts trying to do it. There was nothing from like
Motel 6.
yeah, Motel 6, just terrible stuff. Humans, like it wasn't animals were not a big threat. And then Arizona, it's rattlesnakes, mountain lions, elk. Louisiana, obviously, it's going to be gators and cottonmouths and all kinds of crazy animals that want to kill you. So it's like different stuff each time. I think we were just talking about that. Like we'll be packing heat for different purposes, during the investigations.
We're gonna die.
Yeah.
Venture into
plus-
the unknown.
Yeah. Plus, I feel like that helps, show your diversity,
Yeah.
I think that is interesting because, not to put down National Geographic or anything, I was watching one of their shows and it was like some archaeologist dude, and the first 2 episodes were both set in South America, and they were doing like the Aztecs and the Mayans. But then every other episode was completely different. I was like, that's kind of strange. Like, just they're so
Space
like,
those out.
yeah, those are the first 2, So I feel like you guys will be avoiding that trap.
Well, the other thing too that I'm excited about for the Arizona one is, we're going to be going in like peak summer, so like all of these deadly animals, pretty much any animal that is known to live in the area is going to be out, which is going to challenge us because not only do we have to really watch each other's backs and make sure that we're not going to stumble across a bear or something, but it will help us in the fact that we're going to have more chances to run into things that, the Mugion monster, which is supposed to be a Bigfoot-like creature, could be misidentified as, which, one of the main theories is that it's just a misidentified bear. So we're going to be there like prime season to, run into these things that, can aid us in our investigation and hopefully not die. But,
Definitely. I think it's kind of funny because it's almost like you have to be more aware, because any noise that we might hear running around the brush, we can't just assume that that's the monster. We have to say, well, could it be this or that? Whereas like with the Pukwudgie, when we were out doing the night investigation, we started hearing what sounded like wood knocks at one point, and we're just like, oh, this isn't turning into like a Bigfoot thing, is it now? We're out here with Pukwudgie, and it turned out to be there was like a construction site that's like not that far from there, but for some reason on a Saturday night they're out there tapping on stuff. It was
it's like 11 o'clock at night and they're like doing construction. We're like, what?
I thought it was bizarre. It's like a lot of some kind, and so, but in Arizona you won't really have to deal with that because we're probably going to be in areas where the closest people to us might be in campers or remote houses, so there's not really going to be that. So if we hear a wood knock, it probably might be a wood knock and not somebody drilling at Saturday night, at 12 a.m. or whatever.
Yeah, like that. Yeah, that. that's another reason too why I'm so excited for the Arizona one, because like Alex said, we're going to be so off the beaten path. Like we've never done an episode or an investigation for an episode where we've been, so far away from the closest anything. We're really going to be out, in it, and I think that's really just going to help us. And yeah, and with with having to deal with these nature sounds and other animals making noises, it makes us have to work harder, because we have to sit there and we have to sift through it, and we have to discuss with one another, like, oh, what could that be? Oh, could be this, and it allows us more opportunity to take into eyewitness accounts, of say they heard something, then we can say, hey, that kind of sounds like what they're saying, but we know it's this, so we know this is happening. So I wonder if maybe they're just associating that with this. It opens up so much research and investigation possibilities. And I've been asked once before, like, what do you think is easier, ghost hunting or monster hunting? And I'm like, well, monster hunting is way harder. They're like, why? And I'm like, well, ghost hunting, you're in four walls and a roof and have no no noises, no competing noises most of the time to battle with. Whereas with cryptozoology and doing cryptid investigations, you're outdoors with animals and cars passing and planes flying overhead. You have it's an audio nightmare basically. But it just it gives you more to digest basically, and analyze, and it makes our jobs in post a living hell, but it just aids in the investigations and kind of coming to at least some kind of a conclusion with certain things.
Right. I know you did that a little bit in the Devil's Punch Bowl, right? Where you discovered
that place is wild.
Yeah, with the water dripping off of the leaves, right? And they sounded like footsteps or something like that.
Basically it's like that is what I'm talking about. Is
Yeah,
you're gonna
yeah.
gets that stuff. But yeah, that one, it literally felt like we were being surrounded by small people. Like I can get why people would associate gnomes to to live out there because of just the way it sounded. And that place was a whole nother world.
I think that's a good point about just it being more difficult with cryptozoology in general, like the Devil's Punch Bowl or other places. How does the environment play a role in what's going on? I know when we were in Massachusetts, obviously we're hearing all these stories about cults and satanic rituals and these kinds of things. So you're almost on edge, kind of looking out for this sort of stuff. How does an area like northern Arizona, wildlife wise, or how does the terrain, does it make noises bounce and echo off of the canyon walls? Whereas when we be in Louisiana, you've got, it's like almost like a jungle in there, so you've got all these disorienting sounds. I think the environment playing a role in the legend is a big part of it as well. And that's something that each episode we have a different sort of thing to work with. It's not like you are completely used to, okay, Devil's Punch Bowl, we know that there's going to be little leaves tapping and this kind of stuff that creates a disorienting effect. Well, maybe totally different in Lake Champlain, where you have water noises and that kind of stuff, as it is going to be in Louisiana. So I think that's a big part of it too. And that's going to, not only that, but it's just going to push kind of our critical thinking and our wits in the moment. You're going to have to figure out, a lot of times when stuff happens, you have to figure out in the moment what it is, try to rationalize it or try and identify it, and kind of figure out what you're hearing or what's going on. Especially if it's a threat to you, you gotta assess real quick.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I guess we should stop being so cryptic about these cryptids. Nash and Alex, what can you offer in terms of a sneak peek of season 1?
Well, we have Pukwudgie, Mogollon Monster, Champ, and the Rougarou is our
Did you already
4.
announce that? Did you already say that, Aleks Petakov?
Pretty
We
much.
kind of mentioned it, but not like in a list like that. He just kind of listed them off. So
for
that's
sure.
So, and I think he mentioned it earlier, how they're all different in terms of the environment, the terrain. So you're getting a lake monster, a swamp monster, mountain monster and something that's supposed to live in woods and kind of semi close to urban areas. So completely different types of cryptids, basically.
Yeah. That's pretty nuts.
It's not just a Bigfoot show.
Yeah.
There's no Bigfoot
Yeah,
episodes, huh?
that I'm getting sick of those messages. Like, oh, I'm excited to see if you guys are different than Expedition Bigfoot. Like, well, we're not just looking for Bigfoot. Like, I had another one once that was like, what separates you from other Bigfoot shows? Like, well, we don't just look at Bigfoot.
That's good.
But then again, that's just kind of what people are used to right now, because that's like all cryptid wise that's coming out is Bigfoot shows.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think is
There's
great about
nothing like Destination Truth anymore.
the
Yeah.
legends part of it. You're chasing legends. I mean, a legend can extend from anything from a location to a creature, right? I mean, when they looked at Devil's Punch Bowl, that's kind of a whole area. Whereas, the Pukwudgie, it's a specific creature within a location, the Bridgewater Triangle, which is obviously a fantastic backdrop for that legend. So you're chasing all kinds of legends. It doesn't have to just be a hairy hominid creature that everyone else is doing shows and covering.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I guess just as a side question, have you guys seen any cryptids yourselves? Or any unexplained, occurrences? I know Nash was telling us a little bit last time, right? Or did you say that
Yeah,
you hadn't seen?
I
Yeah, that's right.
had my Lake Pepin encounter.
That's right.
We filmed our Lake Pepin episode back in 2014. We had a kind of an unusual wave pattern kind of appear and disappear against the current. So that was kind of probably my craziest one. Another one I had was when we were out in Wisconsin one time. It was like dead of winter. It was like -25. We were the only ones out there, and we heard wood knocks come out of the forest.
Oof.
Whoa.
Yeah, those are my main two. Definitely hoping to add that list here, but
Yeah, I've had quite a few strange things, mostly in the UFO category, and that's not really something I was ever into. The first one I really saw was in Willow Creek, actually. We were just sitting up there, beautiful, absolutely no light pollution, and there was something that looked like a star that was just like zipping across the sky at speeds that were really fast. It was very far away, so when I say UFO, I mean, unidentified flying object. Could be some secret satellite that's able to maneuver. I don't know. Then a couple times I've seen like glowing orb type things in the woods. Really don't know what that's about. One of them was in Pennsylvania, in this area called the Pennsylvania Triangle, that I went to 2 years in a row with some friends of mine. Actually, Paul, one of the guys we interviewed for the Pukwudgie episode, who's a fantastic historian about all sorts of paranormal stuff. We saw a UFO last year, just about a year ago there, and it was the most incredible thing I've ever seen. It was floating. It was like a floating cloud that had a light inside of it, just moving through the air. And then we
Wild.
saw a smaller object, a bright light, flew out of it and back into it.
Whoa.
And we got it on film. We got it on film. We had it on a night vision goggles, and you can see in the video that it is like this cloud hazy object with a smaller object just parallel to it, just floating through the sky. And we saw it shoot across the sky. And some other weird stuff that's happened in that area where there's Bigfoot sightings, black helicopters, shadow people, UFOs, all seen in the same area. And then some of the weirder stuff I've had recently was also wood knock related, kind of like Nash. Last summer, I was camping in this spot with a buddy of mine, and we had some things walking around our camp at night. And we're both into Bigfoot, so we're just like, yeah, it's a raccoon or some small animal just hanging out. And I had my audio recorder with me, with only, unfortunately, like 1 bar of battery left, but I just had it hanging in our tent as we slept. And it wasn't until a couple months later that I actually reviewed the audio, and there was like 20, 30 wood knocks and stuff throwing stuff around the camp. And I just posted a video about it on my Sasquatch channel just recently, because the reason why I checked out the audio was I found out from some local friends of mine who are Bigfoot investigators. They visited a property right near that area. It's a very rural part of New Hampshire. where a guy was having decades of Bigfoot activity at his house. He was having rocks thrown at his house, stuff thrown in the windows, all kinds of stuff. And they investigated that property and thought it was pretty credible. And it was right in that same area. And since the whole quarantine and Corona thing has started, I've been going to that spot almost every day since I don't have to drive to work anymore. I have a little bit extra time,
Mm-hmm.
not in Boston as much. So I'll go out there, and I've had 2 incidents, one with my brother, another with my friend, after dark in that spot where we had clear wood knock. We heard one in March, and the other one was in April, where we heard for about 10 minutes 3 or 4 wood knocks and something almost pushing a tree over. And I actually recorded that on audio as well. And
Wow.
I've since befriended the property owner too, and he's told me a whole host of encounters that he's had living in that area since the 80s. So I don't know. I mean, what's going on there? It's kind of crazy. I just camped out there over the weekend, and we had some barred owls mating in the tree right above
Ooh.
our camp, which
Ooh.
some very creepy noises, but nothing, no wood knocks, nothing weird. But I mean, the wood knocks, I can't explain it. They sound exactly like what you'd expect from a wood knock, and there's multiple. There'll be one a closer knock, and then one in the distance. So, I mean, supposedly it's an active area. So I don't know. I'm not really like investigating. I'm just kind of going out there and seeing if I can get anything else.
Right.
Every time something's happened, it's been totally random. It's just you'll go in there after dark and something just starts banging on a tree, or right as I'm getting my audio recorder, there's a knock, and then you don't hear anything else the rest of the night when you start recording your audio. So I don't know.
No. Adding on to that, I guess it's interesting that you keep going back to the same area because I don't know if you've heard of Thomas Shea. He investigates Sasquatch in northern Kentucky. He's been doing it for a long time. I want to say somewhere in the ballpark of 40 years.
Is he the
But
guy with
he's
the Nutella print?
no, it's someone else. But Thomas Shea, yeah, very old school dude. I think he's like a World War II vet or something like that. And but he's been going to the same spot for like 40 years and just collecting the data he gets there, all the prints and the audio
Right.
recordings it's just pretty nuts. I know I think all of that information is going to go to Cliff Barrickman, uh, who will be able to catalog it and probably release it out to the public for all of us to see eventually one day, which would be super sick.
And that's good stuff. I mean, I think it's important to have a record of the things that go on. Like, I don't really consider myself to be like a Bigfoot researcher, right? I'm not going out there
Mm.
usually every single day. I mean, the only other times I've ever had wood knock kind of stuff happen was when I'd be out filming. 2016, I would go out to this spot for about a month and a half. I was going out to this place up in the White Mountains here in New Hampshire every week with this researcher who lived up there because I was filming a documentary about him called Shy Man of the White Mountains. And we had seen like structures and things that would pop up, and we did hear some like strange noises, but nothing like super definitive. He had claimed to have seen a bunch, but that's what was so weird about this area is it was like a friend of mine who was into Bigfoot. We were just out there camping because it's a nice spot and I like that area. And we're something walking around the camp. We're thinking, it's too good to be true. It's obviously just a smaller animal because your critical thinking is coming in, and then you have this audio that you just can't explain. So I mean, I'm just gonna document if I come across anything, but I'm not really like out there trying to prove anything. If you get what I'm saying, I'm just sort of kind of seems like I stumbled into something. I don't know. Obviously I'm interested and I want to see if these things exist. If I can see one, I mean, that would be amazing. But if it's not, I've had moose encounters in that area. I've had encounters with other animals. So it's just, I love nature. So getting out there really isn't a big issue for me. If I find anything else on the side, so be it.
Right on.
That's cool.
What are your guys' favorite cryptids?
Tasmanian tiger, yo.
Yeah. Actually, before anyone else's answers, I did want to ask Nash a specific question about the thylacine. Because I was just reading, like, I think it came out like 2-3 days ago. They uncovered more footage of the last
Yeah.
thylacine,
Oh, nice.
like 20 seconds, and I just wanted to know if you had seen it.
Of course,
Or-
I've seen it like 80
Yeah.
times.
Yeah, right.
That was a really good video. I mean, like I have the other one that was pretty much the known one that's been there for a long time. I have that one like saved on my computer, but yeah, that one was a really cool one to see. I think Eli, was it you that sent me like the colorized footage?
Yeah, that was pretty
Yeah,
nuts.
that one was really cool. 'Cause I know I've seen those videos, but yeah, it was cool to see them like in color. Yeah, that one was the Tassie Tiger for me. I don't know why. It's kind of one of those ones that I stumbled across, and I have this little sticker that's
so
on my
cool.
desk.
Right on, dude. That's so sick.
It's my phone background. But yeah, I can't even like tell you like what kind of piqued my interest in it, and it's just kind of one of those ones that I came across and I'm like, oh, this existed and it's gone because of us, and but people are still seeing, and the further down the rabbit hole with it I got, just the more obsessed with it I became. Like I got to get out there. I got to get to Australia and Tasmania. I got to go and look for this thing, and so hopefully one day with this show we can make that happen. I know I watched the Expedition Unknown episode last night that they did on talked about like how they have like the genetic material now to hopefully someday try and clone one. And, yeah, I don't know. That's one of those that's always the top of my list when people ask me that.
Right on. Mr. Petakov?
Yeah, it's a fantastic one. I just recently rewatched the Extinct or Alive episode about it. I was like gaming and I was just watching that show in the background. I love Forrest Galante, awesome thing. But
Awesome.
I would say probably Champ. Honestly, the reason why is because it kind of shocked me. I was always more interested in Loch Ness growing up. Nessie's like one of the most famous cryptids out there. So it's kind of funny because it's across the ocean from me, and I grew up, 2.5, 3 hours from Lake Champlain, and I didn't really think about it all that much. Champ doesn't get much the limelight, so to speak. Nessie steals all the headlines, even though I went to Loch Ness and I was almost like kind of let down in a way, which is strange. It wasn't really what I expected, and having done a little bit more research into Nessie, I just feel like a lot of the historical sightings and pieces of evidence that have been put forward have been fakes or hoaxes or that kind of thing, which I think is unfortunate. Whereas when I got into Champ, really when I did the On the Trail of Champ series, I didn't know a whole lot about it, and I was kind of blown away just the history of Lake Champlain and all the things associated with it, and the rich history of sightings and everything. And I have a bunch of Champ stuff here. We got the little Champ stickers and badges and all kinds of stuff. But
dope!
I just love it, and it's so interesting because
my stuffed
he's got the Lake Monster.
Oh dang!
Since we're showing off our Champ collections,
Yeah.
I got your.
He's got my postcards.
I got your postcards. Yeah.
Those are so much fun to make.
Ooh.
A little bit off topic, but I got my Bigfoot.
I have that same Bigfoot, but I think it's in the box up there. I have like a whole cryptid collection kind of thing.
Nice.
I know it does.
But yeah, like I said, Champ, I just something about it, and I love the fact that it's so close to me. And even after the series, I've still gone back to Lake Champlain all the time. My brother actually goes to school like 20 minutes from the lake, so it's like really not hard to get me up there for a weekend and stomping around and searching for stuff. So that's why I think when we do the Champ episode, it's just going to be so natural for me, and it's going to be such a good time, and I have a lot of very, very fun plans for that particular episode when we get to that for the filming of that. So yeah, Champ beat Nessie. That's kind of the way it happened for me.
Well, to add what he said, yeah, I mean, Loch Ness was kind of the first cryptid that I got into, as a kid, and I had always researched it, and had known about other ones around the world. But yeah, and then I was just doing some research one day, and it was like, oh, cool, Minnesota's got one, and then it's kind of what prompted me to go out to Lake Pepin, which is only like an hour drive from me, and yeah, I think like Alex too, like I go out there all the time, as much as I can, not as much as he does, but get out there all the time, and as much as like I said, as much as I can, and just kind of scour the lake, see if I can see anything. Especially after I had that, sighting, what could be sight when we were out there filming. I definitely try and look in that same area and like the known hotspots of sightings to kind of see if I could see anything. But yeah, I think what Alex said, like most of the like Loch Ness evidence that's put out there is either really old or has been proven fakes. Like I always laugh at the fact like the most famous Nessie photo that you always see is like that known hoax. And that's a photo that everybody always associates with Nessie. And even though there's better evidence out there for these other creatures, I can, got that famous champ photo, but you can actually, see it. There's,
I was gonna mention,
really good photos. Yeah,
Nancy
there's really
photo
good.
is still standing the test of time.
I guess a little look behind the curtain. Last night we were actually recording our part 1 of a 2-part Champ series for Cryptid Campfire. So
Awesome.
Champ is still very fresh on my mind right now.
Absolutely. I mean, for me, I was actually one of the last people to interview Sandra Mancy while she was still alive. She passed away, unfortunately, fairly soon after I interviewed her, within that year. And I had heard about the photo, of course, very famous, one of the most famous lake monster photos after the Nessie one. So everyone knows about it, and everyone's heard of Sandra's story on TV, and you see her in a lot of the documentaries. But talking to her, she just seemed very genuine, and I came away with the conclusion that she absolutely, her family did not perpetuate a hoax. That they, unless somebody pulled a hoax on them that was very elaborate and clever, they truly saw something. And I mean, it was proven that there was not manipulation done of the photo. Back in the day, you didn't have Photoshop and these kinds of things. So they said that the photo had not been doctored, so whatever, something was actually there. If it was fake, it had to have been like something that was placed in the water kind of thing. So I truly believe that she saw something unusual, and she kind of dedicated her life to making sure that this thing was protected, or that this photo would remain in the public trust. And there's actually a kind of a museum / aquarium in the Science Center in Burlington, Vermont, where they have the original photo that she donated to them, that you can go and they put on display sometimes. And hoping we'll be able to see that for the episode and kind of get in contact with those folks and see what we can work.
That'd be cool.
It's a big part of the history, but it's only one part of the Champ history, as I'm sure you're finding out with your episode.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's what we split it up into 2. And how long did we go last night? Almost like 2 hours, right?
About 2 hours.
And that's part 1, and
that's what's wild about the series too. When I did the Champ series, I was so much I had to cut out. I'm like, this is going to be 20 episodes, like so much to put in there. I felt like I was just scratching the surface. So what I'm excited for with Chasing Legends is we're definitely going to examine some of the stuff that I don't think a lot of people look into in regards to Champ, especially since we're going to be doing actual investigating, whereas I was doing more of a profile of the monster. So I think it's just a little bit of way of like expanding into the mystery and a little bit different kind of things than people might usually do.
Right on.
Yeah, for sure.
That one's definitely going to be my baby, I'd have to say.
Mr. Daikaiju, did you want to share your favorite cryptid?
My favorite cryptid. I mean, I would say probably the Yeti.
I've heard this so many times.
There you go.
I mean, Eli's heard this story like a million times, but I always say the Yeti's probably my favorite cryptid,
awesome.
And it goes back to there was this game in 1996, arcade fighting game called Primal Rage.
Oh my god, with the giant like Godzilla-like things.
Yeah, sure. It was It was basically a fighting game with stop-motion dinosaurs, and they had the T-Rexes, they had a raptor, and they had the 2 King Kongs, and one of them was Blizzard, which is this big ancient primal god of the hunt from before the Ice Age, and he was held in the earth till he broke free again in modern days, and now these giant monsters fight for the supremacy of the earth.
That's awesome.
So I was always thinking the Yeti is just this big giant, like protector god in the Himalayas,
Well, it's definitely how they perceive them.
That was my first cryptid that I got into, actually, was the Yeti.
Oh
Yeah.
hell yeah!
Yeah, and so that's what got me into it because I was a kid. I was on a skiing trip in the mountains with my family, and my dad gave me one of those shadow box toys. So the shadow box ones were they had like Bigfoot, Loch Ness. They had a couple different ones, and they were extremely detailed. And they all had this scroll that had the story, and he
Oh,
told me the
that's
story,
so
and we were
sick.
up in the mountains, and like I was hooked from then on. So
Oh
my
yeah.
my probably my top list would be someday going to the Himalayas like Nepal or Bhutan and searching for the Yeti up there. So I'm right there with you. Yeti's definitely a close second for me in terms of cryptids.
Yeah, I'd have to say the same. Um, I gotta add this though. This is a pet peeve of mine with the community. I am tired of seeing on cryptid pages, oh, there's this, the Yeti of Kentucky, the Yeti of Montana. The Yeti is regional to the Himalayas.
Yeah,
You were seeing a Sasquatch-esque creature in Kentucky. You're
right.
not seeing a Yeti. Like that stuff.
Yeti's on vacation.
Some people
I
get
mean,
pissed off about the whole white Bigfoot or the white Yeti thing. You know, it's like
yeah.
in actually Himalayas, it's like just like a Bigfoot. It's brownish hair. There are like
Yeah.
lighter ones, and people do claim to see white Bigfoots. Like they got the whole Alabama white fang and other
Yeah.
like kind of interesting cryptids like that. So I think that's kind of funny how that happens. But you got to blame Bumble basically from Rudolph.
Yeah.
That's where it came from.
Yeah.
Misconception
because
City.
if you look at some of like the alleged physical evidence, it is darker. It is in some cases it is like a lighter brown.
Yeah.
Lighter than what we would kind of describe as the American Bigfoot or the Bigfoots anywhere else. But yeah, if you look at like eyewitness accounts, it's very rarely that they say that they saw anything white.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of more of a pop cultural association, like
Mhm.
Alex said, where it's
And
they
the
kind of just
horns
associate. Yeah,
And the horns. That's
from
right. Yeah.
Star Wars. That's from Star Wars.
Oh, the Wampas,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and then that kind of took off, and now there's all these other. What was that? There was that one animated movie recently about the Yeti, and it had
Oh.
horns in it too. And
Yeah. That movie. This gets brought up, but apparently, and I don't want to say it was the director, but someone like an executive,
I think it was maybe the writer.
the writer of that movie, Abominable,
Yeah.
said that there was no legends or mythology to base the Yeti off of, so they had to make up their own stuff. And I was like, what?
what?
all the
Yeah.
cryptozoologists are cringing.
You're
What do you
making
mean,
a
though?
movie about something you're making a movie about probably one of the most famous cryptid zoology creatures in the world,
Dude,
and you say that there's nothing to base anything off of.
I could have found more information in middle school doing a Google search than apparently this well-funded Hollywood executive can do. Like,
Well,
my girlfriend, knowing nothing about the topics of cryptozoology, could probably tell you more about the Yeti just based on what little she knows, and get it
seriously.
more correct than they did.
Oh my
they,
god.
they did the interview with I think the writer executive. They're like, so, what did you do the movie for? And they're like, well, I tried to do some research, but apparently Yeti just stands for microphones. So I had to think of my own legend.
Oh jeez.
Or
It's
the
Now we're back to that. They don't care about the topic. This is exactly what we're talking about when we say that. They just don't
It's
care.
all a cash grab. Well,
Yeah.
it sucks. It's like the cryptid field is starting to go the way of ghost hunting, where it's just now becoming a cash grab.
yeah.
But it's funny though, because like a year ago, was it a year ago? I think it was about a year ago. I was pitching Chasing Legends to some, production companies that were associated with networks. And all of them came back to me like, oh, no one's looking for cryptid shows. No one's looking for cryptid shows. And then like within a month, like Expedition Bigfoot came out, In Search of Monsters came out. Like the Travel Channel all of a sudden like dumped like 3 at once. They were all pretty much the same thing. And I'm like, okay, like, I guess you don't want anything that you can't mold into anything. And one of the ladies at the last companies I went to, she's like, honestly, if you want to make this show well, do it yourself. She's like, because they're gonna tell you to change things, and I'm like, okay, like thanks,
Yeah.
like thanks for being honest.
Yeah.
That's a bummer with a lot of that stuff. Some of the TV stuff is they just want you to kind of mold into a certain thing. And I've done interviews in the past for shows, and you see exactly what they're trying to do, and to the point where you're just kind of like, yeah, I don't know if I really want to be involved with that kind of stuff, or especially if it's something that you have a creative stake in, like it is your baby. Like Chasing Legends is something that Nash and his crew came up with back in the day, and to have somebody just come in and butcher it and say, well, actually, we want to make it more gimmicky and add this, and it's like, no, that's not why he got into it in the first place. That's not why any of us got into it, to kind of turn it into this cheesy Scooby-Doo like thing.
Mm-hmm.
Not there's anything wrong with Scooby-Doo. I love Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
Sorry, Scooby. No hate, but you know what I mean. Like they
No.
try to almost like just completely take creative control. That's basically what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've always said too, like if I was ever approached with an offer to get this on TV, I would basically tell them like I will take as little money as you feel giving me as long as I can keep the creative control. And
Mhm.
and then with saying that, you'll find who really wants it and who doesn't.
Right.
And I mean, but if no one wants it, I want it. I'll keep making it myself,
Yeah.
This first season goes off the way, we hope it will, then people are going to want to see it more, and we'll be more willing to, contribute to future Kickstarters, and hopefully eventually this can just be a full-time thing, and we won't have to do Kickstarters anymore because we'll just be making money off of views and royalties and
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. I'm rooting for you guys. So.
but
What about you, Eli? What's your favorite cryptid?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
You don't escape the question, sir.
What? Well, that's all the time we have for this week, guys. No. My favorite is actually Bigfoot.
Which one?
The classic Pacific Northwest Bigfoot. Just, um,
Plain Patty, huh?
oh yeah, I love Patty. I just, when trying to describe to people how I got into, cryptids and stuff like that, I really can't provide like a definitive moment, uh, because I grew up just watching cable TV, and Bigfoot and Loch Ness and the Chupacabra were like the three ones that I just feel like I knew about. Like I'm just, my earliest memories, I'm like, oh yeah, I knew about that stuff back then. It's just,
Back when it seemed like shows kind of cared more about the subject.
yeah,
Yeah.
oh
It
yeah,
wasn't just reality TV, and I think that's where a lot of the independent stuff, like what we're trying to do, is bringing that essence back. You're
oh
getting
yeah,
people who are actually interested in this stuff. I think since basically, I mean, the 2000s, you haven't really had much that's been some stuff has been better than others, but Monster Quest is a good one I can think of where seemed like it was, they cared about the subjects, and the guy, uh, friend of ours, has interviewed Nate Brislin has interviewed the guy who put the series together, and he actually
oh
kind of
wow,
he's really interested in he ran the production company. He's really interested in the subject of cryptozoology, which is cool. Which is like we want to be those people next. We're like that next generation of people that are coming through with those kind of ideas and talking about it, and bringing the field forward in a way.
yeah, and
What I think I always appreciated about Monster Quest was that like it was pretty much each episode was documenting another group, researching this stuff. Or it was, sometimes it was several different teams
Right.
kind of doing their own field work. It wasn't just one set person or one set team. I think that was, it was a really good. It was more of a storytelling, aspect. It was, and I always think it's funny that my cousin Michaela and I, who's been with the show since day one, we grew up watching Monster Quest. Like we were always interested, and now here we are, years later, doing our own field research, and it's really come full circle for us. I think in that
oh yeah,
aspect.
I love
Definitely.
Monster Quest.
Speaking of that,
Uh,
did you guys know that they had like a recent one that came out? I think like last November, December, they had like a special they did called Ancient Monster Quest.
Oh,
Whoa,
really?
I didn't
no,
see it, but I saw ads for it, and I know they interviewed a bunch of people, and it was like about the kind of Native American perspective on it. I really want to check. It was history that did it. It was just like a one special. I'll
oh
have to check
wow,
that out though. I haven't seen it
Yeah,
yet,
that sounds cool.
yeah,
That sounds
but it was the
neat.
same people that did Monster Quest. So
that's pretty
uh,
sick.
yeah, pretty awesome.
Yeah. But adding on to what you were saying, Mr. Petakov, that sounds so formal. But yeah, of people like us being sort of the next generation, uh, just the Small Town Monsters on the Trail of series being a spiritual successor to In Search of, I just think that's awesome,
Yeah, I
and
mean, it like it felt so weird doing the first season of that just because I had no idea what I was doing, and it was funny. I always talk about this, and Seth always likes to bring it up about how I was supposed to have like a couple people with me for a crew when I was going up there filming, and like that one weekend when I had all my rental equipment, all of a sudden everyone had to cancel and people had like emergencies.
oh,
I was like, dang it, this thing's gonna get ruined. I'm like, I'll just go do it myself. And I literally did the whole thing myself. And I'm like, you know what? I kind of
yeah.
like this run and gun sort of thing. But yeah, it's like you said, in that in search of vein, you're just kind of looking at a subject and taking it from there. And that's what I loved about it. And the recent On the Trail of UFOs too. But um, that's it. Like I said, I just think there's a lot of space for the independent creators like that. We are being a little bit choked now from Amazon and some of the corporate kind of entities that are trying to encroach on that, and especially with this whole pandemic, I think people are gonna move away from like movie theaters a little bit. Who knows what's gonna happen with that? But hopefully, we can
Mhm.
still retain this space that we have made where we put our content out directly to the people who are funding it because they have like a
Mhm.
stake in it. It almost gives them like a stake in it. They're like they put their money into a project, they're like a
Mhm.
part of it. I mean, not only do they get their names in the credits, like with Chasing Legends, what's gonna happen, but there's other things they're like more involved almost, and I think that's really cool. And that's something that I've backed projects like that in the past just because I love being able to see it kind of come to life, and it's something that maybe not wouldn't get picked up by TV or networks otherwise.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
well,
almost
that's one of the reasons too why we're sending everything straight to YouTube. We're not doing Amazon. We're putting all on YouTube for free. Making it as available as possible. Like, we're not trying to make any money off of this. If as long as we have the money to film it, we don't need anything other than that. And we just want to make this, as available to everybody as we possibly can. And YouTube's easy.
yeah. But yeah, my favorite cryptid is Bigfoot. Um,
Well, to add to that, I always tell people, and I mean, you guys have sure have your own theories on things, but I always say like Bigfoot is, your Patty, your Pacific Northwest, and then I always say like the species overall is the Sasquatch, you know. So I'm like I always tell people, it's and that's my own personal theory that you have your, each you have your all sorry, you have your regional variations of said Sasquatch. The Yeren in China, the Yowie in Australia, Orang Pendek in Sumatra, the Almas in Russia, the Kiakadam in Kazakhstan. You've got Mugyan monster, the skunk ape, grassman.
So
Everywhere
many.
has got their own some variation of the Sasquatch. It's all described as the same creature. So that's kind of, I mean, I don't
oh
know if
yeah,
anybody else shares that same kind of theory, but it's to me kind of how I explain to people that outside of the community. That's kind of how I
Definitely.
describe
Mhm.
Sasquatch.
Yeah,
hmm
totally. There's a lot of regional differences, like you expect even from a biological species. You have black bear, which is probably one of the most widely distributed animals in North America. They live here in the woods, practically right outside where I'm living in New Hampshire. Whereas Nash has plenty in Minnesota. There's plenty in the swamps in Louisiana, in Florida, Alaska, all over the place. And they have different adaptations in those different areas. They might be slightly more or deer I think is a good one. You have larger deer up north, smaller as it gets south towards the warmer environments. So you have
hmm
all these different like the Falk monster. The descriptions are way different than the woods devils that we have up here in New England and New Hampshire, as opposed to the grassman wherever the Bigfoot may be seen, or the more docile kind of shy Bigfoot like in the Pacific Northwest that
hmm
you guys would kind of be more familiar with. So it's pretty interesting if you think about it, just biologically and the kind of traits that they might have. And it's a perfect way
hmm
of describing it. But when you see like all the different names for the legends, even back in the day, like the wild man or the gorillas or the woods kind of stuff, really interesting from just a sociological perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, and especially too, the most common description obviously is the 7 to 8 foot tall large hairy thing, but then orang pendek in Sumatra, it's described as being 4 to 5 feet tall, but still sharing the same characteristics, where a lot of people, and a lot of people even in the science community have said, yeah, that's the orang pendek is probably, in terms of Bigfoots and cryptids, probably one of the ones that's most likely to actually exist, just because of how dense the island of Sumatra is and how unexplored it is.
Yeah.
And I always think back to like the classic Destination Truth episode where they did on it, and they talked with the biologist that was like living there, and she's like, "Yeah, I've only seen elephants twice in the 30 years I've been here. A large animal she's only seen twice.
Mm-hmm.
So who's to say a 4 to 5 foot essentially a teenage sized Bigfoot isn't running around out there undetected."
Yeah, and I think too in like 2006 or so, the discovery of the Homo floresiensis there, which
Mm-hmm.
wasn't exactly in Sumatra, but it was in Flores, and it like matched to a T the description. It was a small human-like creature that
Hmm.
was, I mean, that the people that live in that area, the indigenous people, had stories where they described these little people, and they would have, at the time, I think it was 10 to 14,000 years ago, supposedly, that they went extinct. These Homo floresiensis, the people that were living there, as in the Homo sapiens, were interacting with these things, so they would have had stories that they would have passed down. And like Nash was saying, Sumatra, I mean, they have, just like in parts of Africa, they have tons of extremely large game. You have the rhino there, the tigers, the orangutans, elephants. I mean, no other part of Asia has that similar to Africa sort of wildlife, which I think is really interesting. So why wouldn't these small people, these small hairy creatures, still be able to exist? And I've heard encounters from like UN officials and Westerners that have been living there that are completely dead serious, saying, "Oh yeah, no, I've seen them. They run away and they're like skittish and they're different from orangutans. That's why the locals don't call it an orangutan." I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not an expert on it, but it just seems like if there's one that we could probably definitively prove, maybe that might be it. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely interesting for sure. And just, I don't know, you can't be, the so-called armchair researcher and be like, yeah, it's not out there. And it's like, ah, come on, dude.
Right.
I mean, I was a believer in Bigfoot even before I went to the PNW, but that just like reaffirmed. I mean, just the area. I was at this campground called Lost Creek over by Mount Hood,
Oh
which
wow.
is prime real estate for squatches. But just the area we were at, because I was camping during the week, so there weren't other campers around, and just some of the forest was just so dense with vegetation and stuff like that. You couldn't see more than 20 feet into the woods. It's like it could be standing there watching me right now, and I wouldn't know. you know.
That's one of the things I always love about that's the thing I love so much about the boots on the ground approach that we take, is because everything changes as soon as you get there. Like you do
Hmm.
all, we do all of our preliminary research before we go, and you kind of map out the area on Google, and you're like, okay, this is kind of where we're gonna go. This is kind of what we should expect. And you get there, like, okay, we have to change our game plan because it's you. So I've pretty much gotten to the point now where I don't make any solid investigation plan until I'm actually there, because it's gonna change so fast. Like Devil's Punch Bowl, like none of us knew how big it actually was going to be until we got there. And then we, all of a sudden we're standing, we're like, okay, we're staring at 50-foot cliffs,
Yeah,
and
jeez.
See,
it's like it's wild.
so that's interesting. I wanted to ask you actually, Nash, because I don't think I asked you this question before. When you came to Massachusetts, like what was your impression of when we went into the Bridgewater Triangle area and the power lines and kind of that area? Because obviously I've been in that area before, so for me, I don't have that outside perspective. Like, what happened with you and the guys when you all showed up? And Motel 6 aside, uh, the what did you think of the area?
I mean, it's not horribly different, like geographically, than here in Minnesota, but it was very different. We weren't expecting that dense of forest, I guess, and that kind of odd dipping terrain that we kind of faced, where it was, it was pretty uphill, and then it was pretty downhill, and it was super rocky. Here everything is relatively pretty flat and mild hills. But yeah, it was
the big cliff there too.
yeah, that was crazy to. I mean, I'd always I'd known about the Sonnet Ledge from our research, but I wasn't expecting a skyscraper. Like that thing was huge.
Yeah, I've been meaning to ask you that. I think that's interesting.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's wild. I think we've kind of reached the end, but I figured before we go, I stole this from a caveman when we did our last fireside chat. So I figure I'll ask you guys. Do you have your top 5 favorite monsters?
Oh yeah, this is a good question.
So does that
monsters in
different
terms of
from cryptids or like?
I leave it up to you. What would you describe as a monster? Because monster is a different term to so many different people. If you want, we can limit it to movies, literature, or just what. Let's go top ahead. Just off the top of your head, 5 favorite.
I think Godzilla would be at the top for me.
Hell yeah.
Nice.
I think the sort of creature from the Black Lagoon, that archetype swamp monster, because you think about most swamp monster stories in terms of cryptids, aside from like lizard man, they're mostly just like Bigfoots that live in swamps.
Yeah, like a
So
hairy thing.
Yeah, we're talking like a reptilian kind of aquatic monster. I think that's really cool. That archetypal sort of swamp monster is definitely on the list for sure.
Heck yeah.
I'd say the xenomorph, definitely.
Oh heck yeah, dude.
Classic.
King Kong for sure.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
I love King Kong.
I mean,
That's my boy.
I love that. Godzilla I love too. I watched all that stuff when I was a kid, but King Kong, I think it just fits in with that whole Bigfoot thing in a way, and it's almost like the Gigantopithecus. A lot of people call that like the real King Kong. You can imagine how that might inspire stories like that. But yeah, definitely King Kong.
I mean, it's like you can't beat just a big giant monkey,
Right.
What else?
The Cloverfield monster, whatever that was.
Oh, wild. Yeah, that's
did you know in the movie it's a baby?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just a baby Cloverfield.
It's like I think that's kind of one of the reasons why they say like it was just going nuts, because it didn't understand what anything was.
Yeah, I was just running around all. That's it's also there's this old British Godzilla knockoff movie called Gorgo.
Yeah.
So there's like a big giant Godzilla run around, and then they're like, "Oh, that's just the baby. Here's the mama," and it's like twice the size. Like, oh my god.
I think I know my last 3. So definitely Fluke Man from the X-Files.
Oh yes, dude,
I love the
so
X-Files. So that thing was like, I wish there was like a second follow-up episode of that. Like there was more, because man, I love the Fluke Man was such a cool. I loved how X-Files did those like Monsters of the Week kind of thing.
Heck yeah.
Then I'd have to say this one's kind of more like a folkloric. Well, I mean, yeah, not like a real monster, but it's like called the Baba Yaga sort of thing. It's sort of a Slavic. It's like a Slavic tale, but where my family's from, Southeast Europe and former Yugoslavia, they call the Baba Roga, which is like very similar. Basically the same as the Russian one. It's like this demented old witch who lives in like a house with chicken feet. And I did used to get scared a little bit by that story when I was a kid, so I'd put that on there. And
it's an odd way of describing Keanu Reeves, but okay.
Yeah.
John Wick reference.
The Pumpkinhead. It's like a creepy movie. You ever seen
that?
Yeah.
Directed by Stan Winston.
It's terrifying, and the witch. Like I love that though. I love the creature suit. So those are my 5.
Yeah. Pumpkinhead's awesome.
I think Nash has 3 left.
I was gonna say you got the 3.
Well, no, I said 3, so I got 2 left.
Yes.
I'd say the Predator's up there too. If you count him, it's
for sure.
Whatever.
The Yataja, I think they're called.
Yep.
Yeah,
I got like a bobblehead dust. I'm a big Predator guy.
Heck yeah.
Dude, I love Predator. It's such a good movie.
It's
Just,
sort of-
I'm sorry, slight tangent. Well, I guess it's about Predator, but still, it's one of my favorite scenes when the dude is standing and he rips off his shirt and he takes the machete and he cuts himself across the chest and he says,
Oh.
"We're all gonna die." It's just so good.
Love it.
Billy, what are you doing? Come on!
Or when they see it for the first time and they just start shooting all the real ammo and stuff.
Oh man.
They're like
Shoot
this
in the hips.
80s extreme. Heck yeah.
Okay. Nash, I think you got one more, right?
You have more?
I'm thinking.
He's delaying. He's putting it off.
Top of
It's
the
a tough
head, first
question.
one. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's
Graboid. The
Oh,
Graboid.
that's good. That's good.
heck yeah.
Good answer.
Good old graboids. The best worms that turn into two-legged walking things that can fly by shooting parts out.
Shriekers in the ass.
I love the fact
Now
there's
they're
just so
just-
many like different monsters like that. Like it's you have the cryptid stuff, which I think there's so many different things that fall into cryptid, but then you have like the classic monster movie, and it's just so much different. There's a little bit of an overlap, but man, there's just I feel like people that are into the cryptozoology are all into like Godzilla and that kind of stuff too, because it's just so easy to like go from one to the other, you know.
Yeah,
Heck
it
yeah.
really is.
Godzilla's another one that I grew up watching. I think I've got all of them somewhere.
Heck yeah.
And people are always like, you always know like the people that aren't aware of how diverse and extensive the Godzilla catalog is, or they're like, I remember like when the Godzilla 2014 came out and I was talking about it, like, and someone was like, yeah, I've seen the first one. I'm like, what do you mean the first one? Like the
No,
Matthew Broderick one. I'm like, no, that's not
the
do
black
not
and
count
white
that
one,
Yeah.
the Toho.
I think
one?
that
What are
was
you
kind of one
talking
of my
about?
reactions, like the one from the 50s. I'm like, there's like over 30 Godzilla movies. Like, oh, I don't know about that. I'm like, oh, well, you should.
And don't say like the 1996 Zilla, please, or whenever that thing came out.
Oh, the 1998.
Yeah,
Roland
whatever.
Emmerich,
Matthew
Matthew
Broderick.
Broderick.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just don't say that. Like that's
Well, yeah, that's that. Like the person I was talking to, that's what they classified as the first
The
one.
first one.
Like they thought that was connected to like this new, trilogy or whatever the hell is going on with
Yeah, they're like, hey,
the new
where's Matthew
Godzilla stuff.
Broderick?
there was a recent Godzilla movie that came out sometime in like the 2000s. It was a Toho one, and they had like a funny scene where Godzilla, like the actual Godzilla, was attacked by the Zilla one.
Oh yeah.
Right? And he like kind of killed him like off, and it was kind of
Yeah.
like their way of saying like "screw you" for like to put this character in it. Like it was a good little like meme moment, basically.
Yeah, it's Final Wars. There was
Yeah, so it was like Godzilla fighting everyone basically, and
Yeah,
put in there too.
I think we could talk about monsters all night, and I think we will. So tune in, everyone. 24 hours of us talking about monsters.
Yeah.
Monster Stream.
Well, I think we'll close it off. Should I throw it to Nash and Alex and let you guys tell the people where they can find you and where to keep up to date on, everything that's going on?
So the best place to kind of find everything that we have is our website, which is chasinglegendscrew.com. That's going to have the links to all of our social accounts, at least show-wise, and all of our episodes are on there as well. The Kickstarter launching, and it's going to run pretty much the entire month of June. And so you got 30 days to donate, share, promote it, and really I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but this whole thing means a lot to us, and I'm really excited to see how everyone kind of takes it, and we've gotten a ton of support already for it, so I'm pretty convinced that it's going to be a success in some form.
Definitely, yeah. I would say, also check out, just if you can't find the website, go to Kickstarter once it launches and just type in Chasing Legends. It should come up, or just follow Nash or I on Twitter or Facebook, because we're going to be posting the link to the Kickstarter itself. So in case you're lost, and my website is petakovmedia.com, and I will have a link to the Kickstarter on there as well. So if you want to check out some of the other stuff and then also back the project, do that. But yeah, just stay tuned and support, guys, because I think it's going to be awesome. We've got some really cool stuff coming up, and so you're going to see these cryptids in a way you haven't really seen them before, I'd say.
And hopefully not see us die.
Ooh, yeah, we're hoping for the complete survival of all the crew involved in these dangerous terrains.
We'll sacrifice Brian if it comes down to it.
He's the bait. He's the goat on the chain in Jurassic Park. Sorry, Brian, for listening to this. But just I'm gonna also add but yeah, like kind of Alex said earlier, we no matter how much you donate, you get your name at the end of the credits for each of the 4 episodes. We have just a T-shirt option. We have just a DVD option. We have a T-shirt and a DVD option. We have Skype calls with the whole crew, and we're limiting that to 5 people just so it's not a whole thing. We have each episode we are going to take we do always take behind the scenes photos, but for each episode we'll kind of sift through the behind the scenes photos that we find ones that we really like, and we have a option where you'll get a photo from each, you get 4 photos, 1 from each episode, signed by the whole crew, and then we also have an executive producer option if you really feel like being super generous. All the options are, well priced or reasonably priced, and we didn't want to make it more than it had to be, and so yeah, we're really excited.
You still have your stimulus money. Drop all of it on this project.
Ooh, yeah.
Please.
Yeah, if you want to find me online, Aleks Petakov. I'm on Instagram and Twitter at Aleks Daikaiju. I usually post monster art or random tweets, so if you want randomness in your life, check it out. And
I just followed you because I don't think I was following you on Instagram. So.
Oh, thank you.
There we go.
A live following on the Instagram for you folks tonight.
I gotta follow you too. I don't think I followed you yet.
Ooh, 2 in the bag, baby. And Eli, if I want to find you online.
Oh wait, I gotta follow you. I haven't been following you this entire time.
That's it.
Unfollow him and follow him.
Yeah.
Just completely mess up the algorithm.
You can.
What about you, Eli?
You can find me at the Eli Watson on Instagram, and I also run the social media for Cryptid Campfire. You can find us at Cryptid Campfire on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Visit our website, www.cryptidcampfire.com. It's where you can get your official T-shirt. I'll also be sharing the link for the Kickstarter on our Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, so you guys have access to it, the listeners. That's about it, huh?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I want to thank you, Nash Hoover and Aleks Petakov, for coming on and talking with us today in this fireside chat.
Yes, thank you so much for being on the show tonight.
Yeah, it was a good fire.
Yeah, lots of fun. Burned too many marshmallows.
Dang, dude.
And we still got 2 bags left to go.
You're gonna be here all night.
Right on. Well, thank you, everybody. And you guys have a wonderful night.
Take care.
This podcast is a part of Straight Up Strange Productions. Discover more shows like this one at Straight Up